All right, so playoffs, they here. They're starting up. Can you feel the heat? Um, I was like, never done this really kind of in a while or whatever like that. But gonna give basically my picks of basically the wild card. Um, and I'm gonna tell you who I think is going to win and who I would like to win, just because I think it's more fun that way of saying who I like to win. Because I was like, why to give real analysis here when I could just do my own thing? With that being said, let's go to the matchup of the Rams versus the Panthers. Now, this team has already played. The Panthers won. Matthew Stafford threw some really bad picks against them. But at the same time, the picks to me I feel like weren't fluky. And what I mean is they were bad passes by Stafford that I don't know if he'll necessarily make them again. But it was the cornerbacks actually reading the whole play and intercepting him. It wasn't some tips. It wasn't some it wasn't like padded ball at the line or whatever. It was like genuinely, I see this route, I'm going to get this ball. And that's why I was like, while they were bad passes from Stafford to where maybe I was like, he won't necessarily throw those. It might make it where it's like, oh, he second guesses a couple of them throws. And don't get me wrong, he got the arm talent and the smarts to basically just let that thing rip. But the cornerbacks for the Panthers are a lot more savvy and to not just they. I was like, look, this is gonna it could end up being bad. Where guess what? Hey, think you know the route? Boom, they got you. But I think it's a lot more difficult than I think that I was like people just think of like, oh, he threw 3 picks in the games. If you don't see the picks, sometimes you don't know. Now, this all I was like Devontae Adams play. I think is I was like it's gonna be a harder game for Panthers to play. I mean to play with the Rams just because I don't know what Bryce Young you're gonna get. That's the whole thing really about this. Because Bryce Young, I was like was able to get him. He didn't go crazy, but he was able to get them a lot in the middle of the field and stuff like that. And I was like, he do got enough big receiver between Leggett, McMillan, Coker, and stuff that he could take advantage of the smaller cornerbacks of the Rams. I just don't know what type of Bryce Young you're going to get because they're going to try to run the ball and try to make sure that none of them pass rushers really try to get at Bryce. But once again, what kind? So I would like for the Panthers to win. I do not think they're going to win. I think it's going to be the Rams. I just think that it was just that because of that unknown, that it really does feel like, hey, if it's going right, then it's going right. Bryce Young, I would like also heats up a little bit later on in the game as well too. I was like the defense for the Panthers have been playing well. That it could be a while for this game to get going, but I think LA will ink it out. Even though I want those Panthers to go ahead and win the whole thing. I mean, of this game, not necessarily the whole game. Duh. All right. So another game. I was like the Packers and the Bears. Now, Packers have been sort of stumbling, bumbling, tumbling all the way to I was like into the playoffs the last couple of weeks. Jordan Love being concussed, Micah Parsons being done. Versus the Bears, who did get a slacking that last week. But this playoffs is a different game. I was like, it's their team. I can see this one being a little bit more of a shootout. I was like, they have basically won one um in the game. I was like with in one game the Caleb being intercepted and in the other game him throwing the game winning pass. Um so I think they're really even now that they don't really have Micah for the Packers. But I will say that in both games the Packers pretty much had them in a way that seems that would make you think that the Bears would not necessarily hold up, and then there's always some miraculous comeback with them. Um, but if there was ever a time for the Bears to get rolling, it would be right now. Um, I want the Packers to win, but if the Bears win, I don't necessarily mind. Who I think would win in this game, I think the Packers are going to eke it out in this game. I think it'd be a close scoring game, but I think the Packers get it. All right, now let's go to the Feast of Resistance. Dun, 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 dun. The Bears, I mean not the Bears. I messed my own thing up. Josh Allen and the Bills versus them Trevor Lawrence and Duval Jaguars. I was like, I think it's gonna be the Jaguars. I'm picking the Jaguars. I think it's going to be them. Um, will John Allen have to have some heroics? Yes. Um, I was like, it's going. They're going to try to. I think they're going to try to run the ball more with Josh Allen. I think it's going. They're going to use it. Cook as more of a decoy. Probably get him out some screens more than just running him straight up. Um, I was like, but that doesn't mean they won't try. But Josh Allen, I think, is going to probably be the runner in this game. Um, I was like, I think you can get the Jaguar really um, with at their corners, but at the same time, the problem is that the receivers for I was like for the Bills outside Shakir is kind of just iffy. I was like, if you could get Brandon Cooks, and I believe Gabe Davis, just because I like he got familiarity and he could get downfield. Also, he had a really in like the last few weeks, which is weird because you would think that they would be able to get somewhat back on the same page, but they haven't. If they could get, I think if they could get Cooked with a couple downfield shots, I think they got a chance. Um, or whatever. I think I was like, I think if they could utilize their tight ends, I think that would probably be the best way to go because the tight ends is probably their neck. I would like their next set of weapons that are really good, and than the receivers. So I think that would be their route. But I think if Trevor Lawrence, who has been on a heater the last few weeks, I think he could go bar for bar with Josh Allen in a way that it really just depends on which defense decides to step up. Because credit where credit is due. Yes, the Bills' numbers haven't been great overall, but the last few weeks, I was like, they have been able to come in and make stops to give Josh Allen some. I was like some chances. They have been able to come up with the ball in a couple weeks in order to give Josh Allen some chances. So I was like, I'm not going to discredit the defense like how a lot of people probably will. I was like, he will. I was like, they will have a chance with all of this. It just depends on how are you looking at the superheroism that if he could be Superman in this case of Josh Allen versus everything that Jacksonville got going on with it. So I think Jacksonville will just be able to have some continuity because also with the Bills, that's been a problem is that it's taken nearly like half after half after half after half for them to get going. Where with the Patriots, where it was the Bills, I mean not the Bills, the Bengals. Um, uh, I was like where it was just like they're just bad for nearly a half to even like 3/4 before they heat up. So if they could get going a little bit earlier, they got more of a shot. But I think if they play like how they was playing, where it was just kind of like, and like even like I was like, yeah, they're not getting the stops that they need early on at least. I think this team is a little bit too tough to try to come back the way they was during the regular season. All right, so the next game we got is the Patriots versus the Chargers. Now, I would like Drake May first time in the playoffs. Not necessarily the first time in the playoffs for a lot. Some of these players, they got like they thinking they get Milton Williams back. Stephon Diggs has been here. Um, so I was like they got a few players that's been here. Um, versus a beat up. Chargers group, at least on offense. But the thing is, they basically have their receivers. They got their running backs back. Their offensive line, yes, has been decimated with injuries, but they've been playing with that for a while now. Yes, Herbert has basically been banged up, but he's been playing in that same way that everybody else has. That I don't think is a far fetched to talk about the injuries in a way that's going to really hamper this game. I like the Chargers. I was like, they're hard hitting on defense. Uh, I think they could play. I was like, look, Herbert and Drake May. I think this is going to probably be one of those shootout games as well, just because I was like, when they both get going, they both get going. The question here is Drake May and everything that he's been doing this year, where everybody's talking about the competition, the playing, and all that other stuff. Is that really going to matter here when the competition stepped up? You know, the Chargers who have had tough games against the Chiefs, the Broncos. You know, so they play in a tough division. They play to get a lot of AFC games that are tough. Are they? I was like, are they at too much of a high level for the Patriots, who's all sort of just getting their feet wet? Now, you want to say that could be changed by the coach or very brave because I've heard people say that, and I'm like, and the whole time I'm like, we're gonna act like they're not Jim Harbaugh over there, like we're gonna act like he doesn't exist right now. I actually think the Chargers get an upset here. That was like that's my pick, and also who I think is actually going to win. I do think the Chargers will just pull out. I think they both teams had sort of the same philosophy of running the ball, take your shots deep, and play like really stout defense. And this one right here is just like who is going to stop the quarterback on throwing one of them long ass passes where you just think that they shouldn't be able to get this second and 17 kind of thing. Now I will say what I also think is the difference in this game is that Justin Herbert will run more than Drake May. Drake May, and I sort of get it, but he has the athleticism to run. But guess what? He kind of don't. Whereas Justin Herbert, he doesn't run, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to run. And I was like, he will run. He will pick up those 13, 15 yards if he got to. Whereas Drake May, I was like, I haven't really seen it this year in a way. And I don't know that like they coach it too much out of him to basically go and like run. You can do that. It's the playoffs, and you ain't got to worry about staying upright for the whole season, stuff like that. But I think that the habit will just be in there. Um, so that one is what it is. So San Francisco versus the Eagles. Now, this one is sort of tough because it's really dependent on the Eagles. How are the Eagles going to really react in all of this? If it's I was like, because we know the 49ers are going to sort of do. I was like, Purdy, I was like, look, you've been pretty good since coming back or whatever. I was like, had a rough last game and they would just get beat up. And so if the Eagles play physical, I was like, they might be able to take San Francisco out of their stuff. Their defense, hey, the Eagles should be able to get past them because they're so decimated in a lot of areas. But San Francisco is a really also tough team in themselves. Like they're not going to have any, how do you say, like they're not going to have any like punk unnecessarily about them. But if the Eagle could come correct, which is a big statement in their mind frame, they should be able to beat the San Francisco 49ers, who I think is going to win. It's probably the Ford. I was like, this one's actually hard. I was like, is it the 49ers here? I think the Eagles pull it out, and I think they're out and I'm picking them to win at the same time. So they're in both slots. Um, I just think that the talent of Philly will be able to get them past San Francisco, but I don't. It's not going to be a beautiful game. I think that Purdy's going to throw them interceptions. I think that Jalen Hurts is just not going to just look 13 of 18, 212 yards. I don't think it's going to be that. I think they're both going to be using their legs a lot in this game. Um, Yeah, I think it's going to be a grimy game, but I think Philadelphia will get this game. Now comes to the fun one of Houston versus the Steelers, and who I think whoever wins this game might go to the Super Bowl. Reason I say that is because on one hand you got Houston, who probably has the best defense of the best defenses. Um, Even though their offense is getting better, they can't really run the ball the way that you need them to. But I was like, and their passing offense is not crispy, but it's crunchy. It works. It's fine. Now, the reason I say that is because on the other hand, that if the Steelers somehow beat the Houston Texans, you just have to believe in divine intervention. You have to believe that there's some type of power that's like, hey, don't want Tomlin to have that accolade of one and done, but he always made the playoffs. Good, having a good record. Aaron Rodgers being like on his last leg, he's going to go out. But I heard somebody said that if he win the Super Bowl, he come back next year, and I was like, no, he's not. If he wins a Super Bowl this year, he leaving. I was like, definitely, way more than I was like. If he lose, but if he wins, he's gone. Um, but yeah, with this old ass team that they got, and I do mean old, DK's coming back. I wish this wasn't a matchup. I really don't. Cause I was like, I think the Steelers could have a better chance against some of the other teams. To be honest, I think it was. Even weirdly enough, it was against Jacksonville. If it was against the Patriots, I would have them have a better shot than a team that's like. Yes, I know those teams have pass rushers and stuff like that, but Houston has the pass rushers and their DBs and that guy Alsher here's yeah, that guy. They have too much athleticism for such an old quarterback, and really, to be honest, old receiving weapons outside of DK, which I've never been such a DK fan in the last like couple years. But I was like, I just don't know. I don't think this is the matchup than if he would have been against some of them other teams. Um, I was like, I don't know how right TJ Watt is enough to make the impact that needed to be. I was like, Cameron Hayward had a spurt against the Ravens. Like TJ Watt wasn't really there in the same way, but we'll give him a mulligan because he just came back from the lung thing. Jalen Ramsey was getting his ass beat. That's why I'm like, I think they're just too old in a lot of spots. That even though the Texas offense is not humming, I was like, they just need to hum enough, and I think that they gonna get the win. I don't really have two. I was like, I think I'm gonna go with D'Amico here, and I think we might be looking at Tom. I think I don't know what the future holds for Tomlin. I think it depends on if Rodgers come back or not. But then again, I'm just like everybody's just so damn old on this team that I don't know they could do it against that young athletic group of people. So anyway, those are my picks and also who I think. Just because, hey, we all sometimes go with our heart, but sometimes your head tells you better. And here, sometimes they aligned, sometimes they didn't. And hey, guess what? Something about being anyway. What do y'all think? Who is going to win? Let me know. Till then, let's see how these playoffs go. Hoping for a good bunch of games. None of this sorry. Nah. Some good, hard hitting football. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Peace out.